Okay, so some of the stuff that I want to talk about today is mainly just like stuff you feel like you learned the hard way.
I bought underwear, maternity underwear for like postpartum.
On Amazon?
Yes, I bought it thinking like I'm just going to buy my normal size underwear and like never tried it on while I was pregnant or anything. And then when I got home from the hospital and tried to put it on, I was like, oh my God, my legs are too swollen for this to be comfortable to go over. And it was high-waisted. And so I was like trying to shove my stomach in these things and not comfortable. So don't buy your pre-pregnancy size.
I think it also depends on where it's from. Because like I ordered something on Amazon and didn't realize that it was from China. I ordered a medium and they don't even like go up my calf. Like, not even kidding. It was tiny. And then I opened it up and I read. And it's like, these are Chinese sizes. So a Chinese medium is like, or no, I'm sorry. An American medium is like a Chinese extra large or something like, yeah. And so I was like, oh my, I'm going to need a Chinese XXXXL to get over my thigh.
I went for my 6-week appointment and I think that my bleeding had just stopped maybe a couple days before my 6-week appointment, and then a couple days after my 6-week appointment I started my period again, which I wasn't sure if maybe I like was bleeding from my appointment, which I thought was weird that I even started one while I'm breastfeeding. But
my bleeding only lasted about 2, maybe close to 3 weeks, and then before we left town I went for my 6-week appointment when I was almost 4 weeks postpartum. And I wasn't bleeding or anything then or whatnot. So I told my doctor that, and she's like, yeah, no, I typically expect people to be bleeding heavily till about, 4 weeks, and it gets like tapered and less, but I wasn't like that. She said anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks that she would have expected me to be bleeding. It was different though, but I'm pretty sure I started my period and it lasted for like 5 days, but it was very light.
Y'all both only had stitches outside, right? Y'all didn't have any stitches interior?
I know mine were outside, but I don't know if they had to do any internal as well.
I know with Lane, I had some internal ones, and with Cody, I think they were just outside ones.
Mine were only internal and only 2, which they said was pretty rare to not have, much more than
I had like 7 or something.
My bleeding had originally stopped pretty much by week 3, but it's no joke when the doctors tell you not to do stuff for the first 6 weeks. Like, I now understand why, because my bleeding had stopped, and then that day of moving, I lifted up a couple drawers and I had done the stairs a couple times, and it was that night I was just in pain, like my lower back, my pelvis, I was cramping, it did me in. So when the doctor says 6 weeks, do 6 weeks.
Yeah.
What else did y'all learn the hard way?
I feel like everything for me.
Well, I was going to say, we've all talked about breastfeeding. We didn't realize, we all kind of talked and we're like, oh, the first 2 weeks are the hardest. But like, I didn't know y'all felt
Nobody told me that.
Nobody told me that either. And I didn't know y'all felt that way until I texted you. And I was like, I'm in pain. I'm chapped. I'm blistered. This is awful. And y'all were like, oh yeah, I cried every day the first 2 weeks. And I was like, why didn't anybody tell me this? I didn't know if I was like doing something wrong.
I know. Yeah, when I finally figured out that it was okay for it to hurt for like the first couple whatever, I just hurt. And she was like, that's normal. She and she told me that, and I was like, why don't people tell you this? And she was like, I don't know. Everything I read said that like it wasn't gonna hurt and like it should be natural and normal and there shouldn't be bleeding. But like from experience, I've not talked to anybody that hasn't had a hard time the first couple weeks, just getting used to it. Not even so much that it's like the baby won't latch or whatever, but like just getting used to the change of all of that happening.
Even lactation consultants kept saying, like, if it hurts, you're doing it wrong. So that's why I didn't know to text you guys, because I was like, okay, it's me. It's clearly me. And then once I texted y'all and a few other friends of mine, everybody unprompted was like, oh, your first 2, maybe 3 weeks, but definitely your first 2 weeks, it's bad.
Yeah, and even when I was pregnant, I was asking lots of questions because, with mom not ever having her milk pumped in for us, I was constantly, like, I feel like that's the thing I studied most. I was like, okay, I want to make sure I can breastfeed and do this right. And so I had asked so many different people about their experience, and they're like, yeah, it's painful, but it's so worth it. Literally every night I was crying, and like Trevor would basically have to help me get him to latch and just help me support him because I was sore. I was crying, bleeding, everything, just like y'all were.
To hurt because you're not supporting. You don't know how to sit. You're not supporting yourself. You have to like pull their lip down just to try and get your nipple into it because they don't know what they're doing either. They're just as new at this as we are.
Yeah, literally, pregnancy was like a whole new level of marriage because having somebody hamburger your nipple into a baby's mouth is like a whole new level of like.
Even the fact that like I'll just walk around topless. I'm like, if she has days where she eats so often, I sweat when I breastfeed. I get really, really hot.
I'm literally sweating right now.
Yeah. And I get super hungry. So like if there's days where she is eating often, like I'm like, sorry, Jason, careful with the windows, careful with the door. I need you to spoon feed me something. I need you to keep me watered because it's just like I get hot, I get hungry, and I started using Earth Momma. I think that's what it's called. My pillow is called My Breast Friend. That's a tongue twister. And I used the Lanasolve stuff that the hospital gave me. Yeah, I started using the Earth Momma, which people I think you have as well. And I liked this better.
Does it go on smoother?
Yes.
Okay.
And lighter.
That was the only thing that I didn't like about the lanolin stuff is I'd wipe it on and like I would accidentally hit my arm on it and like my arm would stick to my nipple. Yeah. Or like my shirt would stick to me.
That's what
and like leave a mark on it from the cream. Yeah, that like doesn't wash out.
Yeah, it like stained a couple of my tank tops. So also, such a surprise, I didn't realize that when your milk comes in, it's like middle of the night, like gushing, you wake up wet and sweating, and like both your boobs have a fever. And I don't know if this happened to anybody else, but like I was nervous my milk wasn't going to come in, so I was doing vitamins and eating like the protein balls. My milk came in so hot, literally, that both of my breasts were engorged, and I went to the doctor for my checkup, and the lady immediately she went to touch, and she was like, they're both engorged. We need to pump that. And I was like, it's only 2 weeks. I'm sorry, that was only like a couple days after giving birth. And I was like, are you allowed to pump this soon? And she was like, you need it.
Like, I'm not even kidding. I thought I was like, I have no idea. I messaged my doctor and she's like, you need to pump to get that out. Otherwise you're going to get mastitis. And she's like, it might increase your milk supply, but she said, you might as well get it out and risk having a big milk supply rather than, getting infected.
I started pumping like on day 2 after getting home, and 2 days after having Cody, my milk still didn't come in. So I started pumping and that helped my milk come in. And then I pumped so much and froze a bunch, but then I ended up using it when my supply went down when Cody was going through a growth spurt. Anytime like I would have a lot and he would stop feeding, I'd freeze it and then he'd go through a growth spurt and he'd eat it all.
When did y'all introduce a bottle or a pacifier?
Pacifier at the hospital.
Okay.
I don't know. I had one in my bag and I was like, hey, let's see how this works. And he took it. I was like, all right. There wasn't any nipple confusion, although I'd read about it, but I don't know. I wasn't concerned about it. But now in hindsight, not every baby is like him, and it very well could have ended very badly for me. Same with the bottle. Trevor one night, like literally right after my milk came in, he was like, you're so tired. Go ahead and pump me a bottle. I'll feed him. I didn't know that this was gonna, make my boobs even more engorged if I tried to sleep. So I literally woke up crying in pain and was like, Trevor, I'm sorry. I know you tried to help me out, but it backfired. Give me the baby now. But yeah, as far as like trying to get more sleep during night, I do not recommend that at all.
Anytime I've gotten sleep at night, I wake up either one in a wet bed.
Yep.
Or in pain, which I haven't had a wet bed in a long time. I've noticed that if I sleep in a bra, I don't leak as much. I don't know if that
it's because of the pressure on the nipple.
Okay, because I was like, it kept happening, and I was like, maybe it's because I'm not wearing a bra at night because it's easier to just not. But then I realized I have to.
Yeah, same.
The hospital, he was sucking on his hands and like wouldn't stay swaddled because he constantly wanted his hands in his mouth, and so the doctors were just like, if you need to give him a pacifier, he's probably not going to have a problem with it because he just likes to suck on things.
We did a pacifier about a week in, primarily like after feedings, like naps and sleeps, is really the only time she wants a pacifier. And even then, like, she'll use it to go to sleep, and then she doesn't really use it for the rest of the night. She doesn't have too much trouble sleeping. And then we haven't introduced a bottle yet. I've pumped a couple times, but now that she's 4 weeks, we'll probably introduce a bottle soon, just so that, because Jason's eager to feed her, but also like so that I can finally have a break, especially during the growth spurts where she has days where it's like feeding every hour. I definitely get sore from the tugging, or like if my flow is really strong, she'll like bite it to kind of stop the flow, which my doctor said is normal. Babies instinctually know, like, if there's too much coming out, they'll kind of clamp down with their gums to stop the flow so that they don't like drown themselves.
You literally just blew my mind. I was telling Trevor that Brett had been like biting me more lately. I was like, why is he doing this? And he just laughed and was like, just wait till his teeth come in. But that makes sense.
Yeah. I had
one say that Cody has a tooth.
I got really hungry. It was like really late. And so I told Jason to bring me some of the protein balls, and he brought me like 4. So I was like, okay. I'd never eaten that many like all at once. Well, my milk came in like really bad after that. So I think in my opinion, the protein balls work really well for anybody that needs help with their milk supply. I had 4 and I had so much milk coming in. Literally, like, that next time that Kinsey fed, milk was like running out of her mouth, like onto my clothes. She was like, ah.
I just got all this stuff and I have not made them yet. But it's sitting in my pantry. I have all the things.
Hey, that's
I need someone to come and make it for me too.
That's you have to celebrate the small victories now that with well, you've got 2. I was gonna say now that motherhood's here, but motherhood's been here for you. Just getting ready for just getting ready for the Zoom. I was like walking around holding her with one hand while she was feeding, like trying to set things up with the other hand, plus trying to feed. And I was very proud of myself. I plugged my computer into an extension cord using just my toes.
That's pretty talented.
I've gotten really good with my feet ever since I had.
She's half monkey now.
One of the things for me, the doctor said, anytime baby sleeps, you should sleep. That's impossible. When the sun is out, I can't sleep. And when the baby's sleeping is my only time to catch up on emails or phone calls or texts or work stuff or life, or like to just sit.
I don't know how people sleep when their baby sleeps, especially if you have more than one kid.
Yeah, I don't.
I like lay Cody down and like quickly run to like make sure Lane's not like doing something that he shouldn't be doing, or like still doing his lessons.
That's true. Now that you're not only a full-time mom, you're a full-time teacher, so you really can't sleep. Even when I lay down to go to sleep, it's like every noise she makes, I'm constantly like peeking or looking.
Yeah, like what are you doing? Yeah.
Like I set my alarm because otherwise she won't wake up on her own. So I set my alarm so that I can feed every 3 hours. But by the time you get done feeding and changing and burping and back in bed, well, now it's only like an hour and a half before the next feeding. And then if your kid sleeps like a freaking zombie like this kid does, then it's like noises every 5 seconds, and all of a sudden it's time to feed again.
Is that her?
Yeah.
No, that's Kristen.
Have you never heard her make noise?
Just not as aggressive as that sounded.
I gave her a passy. She's getting tired.
Aww.
She likes the ma'am one. I tried giving her the finger ones, but she didn't like those. And so she has a couple of these that she can grab. She'll hold the sides of them and just hold them in her mouth, or she can like pick it up when it falls out in the crib and put it back in her mouth.
Are those the like orthodontist recommended ones?
Yeah.
Okay, someone was telling me about those the other day.
Yeah.
I did not like the diapers A lot of people told me like, oh, the first week or whatever, you're not going to want to, change a pad or whatever. Just use one of the female diaper things. One, I got the small to medium based on my weight. Did not fit very well. Like cut off the circulation on my thighs.
Wait, like an adult diaper?
Yeah, I did not like it at all.
Okay. I took the hospital. I had them give me a bunch of extra mesh stuff and some things like that and used those.
Yeah. TMI, but Kendall, I know one thing you and I had talked about is we were so scared for our first postpartum poop. But
honestly, it's a real fear, guys. If anybody has a fear, it's totally
I think I put that fear in y'all because with Lane, mine was so bad, and with Cody, it was nothing.
Mine wasn't bad at all. If anything, when you sneeze, that hurts postpartum, or when you blow your nose, that hurts because you're practically using your core and pelvic floor to push, and you wouldn't think about that.
I hyped it up to be some horrible thing, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But no, I was sore a lot longer, probably a good week and a half.
I was surprised at how long my arms were sore.
Really?
Did you have to hold up your legs, or did nurses hold up your legs for you?
I had little
was on all fours.
things.
Oh, and you had stirrups?
Yeah. I think.
No, I had to hold my legs.
Yeah, I did. Because Zach took a picture of me right before it was time to push, and I was and then sent it to everybody, and I was like, why would you send that? I literally am completely naked.
That is a good point, is that no matter how much you talk to your husband or birthing coach about what you want in that room, I don't know. I know, Kendall, you got good photos because you had a nurse's help, but literally everything Jason and I talked about went out the window. But then again, in his defense, he was ready to go when we first started pushing. He didn't realize that pushing was going to be literally every minute for 3 hours straight.
Me and Kenzie have a lot in common. You and Mom had the same amount of hours of labor with
21 hours of labor with 3 hours of active pushing. I felt like I had just done the most intense marathon boot camp of my life for at least 2 weeks. I was just, my muscles were jelly and so sore. My arms were the sorest of anything on my body just from holding my legs up so much.
Oh my gosh, no, I didn't realize you had to hold your own legs.
Yeah.
Y'all held my legs with Lane.
I did a big push and her head was stuck half in and half out. And Jason was like, oh my gosh, you have to keep pushing. You can't just stop. And I was like, I'm trying. And so then I pushed again and she came out, but it's he's so focused on that kind of stuff that he couldn't push record again after he had already pushed it a million times during the 3 hours, thinking oh, maybe now's the time. One of the nurses was here, let me grab some photos for you. Dad, pose with the scissors. And so she's taking pictures up my crotch with Jason, who's with the scissors. And I'm I can't do anything with these photos ever in life. They're all disgusting. And Jason, he was pose, okay. He surprisingly was wow, oh, here she comes. Oh, she looks just like me. She's inflating. And I was like, what do you mean she's inflating? He was she took a breath and she just poofed up. I was
oh my gosh.
He was she came out so little. And I was she was not little. I could feel it. Do y'all have any issues with, did y'all bring a birth plan?
Not a tangible one, but I'd talk to my doctor about different expectations.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. I just because of COVID, I've had so many different doctors. I printed one and brought it with me and then discussed it with the nurse in advance.
I don't blame you. Yeah, that was smart.
Yeah. I guess I always had my doctor there. He was always there and we always talked about it, and I knew he was going to be there for the birth.
Well, I guess I should say too, one thing I did learn the hard way is your water breaking. I didn't know that my water broke. I didn't know what was happening. And so I sent Jason to work and I was texting y'all and Jennifer, my sister-in-law. Cause I was just maybe I peed myself, but it's not a whole lot. It's not a full pee. I think I just I piddled myself.
It's a quarter pee.
Yeah. I was making breakfast and had to go to the bathroom, and then I came back out to finish making breakfast. And then all of a sudden that's when it started going down my leg, and it was clear and had a little bit of blood in it. And
Did it start maybe when you were going to the bathroom and you didn't realize it?
Yeah, it did, because I started leaking, and that's how I was like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. I thought it was just normal, like pregnancy discharge of some kind. And then I went to the bathroom and then came back out and thought I was done. And immediately it started going down my leg. And that's when I was like, oh, this is more than just normal discharge. And then I went to the bathroom and saw the blood. And I was like, oh, this must be my mucus plug. So I was like, you can lose your mucus plug literally like weeks before you go into labor. And I was cramping, but I didn't know that your contractions start out feeling like cramps before they get more intense. So I didn't even know that I had already started contractions. And then I was talking to Jennifer, and she was like, Kristen, I think you need to time these if your cramps are coming and going. She's like, you need to go shower and kind of get your stuff together just in case. And I was like, nah. So I like kept doing stuff around the house, and I did eventually shower, and I sold a few things on OfferUp, and did all sorts of stuff. And then finally at like noon, I texted Jason, or I called Jason, and he didn't answer. And he said, hey, is everything okay? And I said, yeah, just call me whenever you get done with work. So an hour later, Jennifer was like, Kristen, your contractions are like 7 minutes apart. I really think you need to call Jason and like get this ball rolling. So I finally called Jason, and he came home, and we went to the hospital around 1:30. And when I was walking into the hospital is when the rest of my water came out.
Oh, that was good timing.
I soaked myself as soon as I got out of the car at the hospital.
Kelly and I were no help. We were like, oh, yeah, you're probably just having Braxton Hicks. Go get your toes done.
That's really anybody I texted, like that's what they had said is, get stuff done, do as much as you can. You don't have to go to the hospital until you're within 5 minutes of your contractions. Like, get stuff done. But a lot of my friends and family, nobody had their water naturally break. So that was part of the problem, is I was like, oh, it's probably not my water. Like, I'm just going to keep going with life. And then sure enough, I get to the hospital, and they were like, oh yeah, your water broke early this morning. That's dangerous if, you don't give birth within a certain amount of time once the water breaks, which I didn't know that either. So we tried to do everything as natural as possible. And then come that evening is when they were like, no, you need Pitocin. We need to jumpstart this.
That is something I learned hard. Being induced sucks.
Oh, Pitocin awful.
Yeah, super painful. And if you're going to get an epidural, have them do it before they break your water, because that sucked horribly.
I would say have them do it before you get Pitocin, because as soon as the Pitocin hits the IV, like that makes your contractions, for me at least, they went from like a 2 to an 8 as soon as the Pitocin kicked in.
So we checked in 11 that night. 1 a.m. the next day is when they started everything. And then like 11 a.m. is when I think they started the Pitocin. And then it wasn't until about 2 when I started feeling uncomfortable contractions. And then 5 is when they broke my water. And then 8:30 is when the epidural started finally kicking in. So I was very uncomfortable from that 5 to 8:30 time frame. We're going to do any pain meds, get it before they break your water. Or like you said, if you're further along, before they start the Pitocin, for sure.
I didn't like the pain meds. I immediately got like nauseous and dizzy, and like was seeing double, and like felt like I wasn't in control. So as soon as they put the pain medication into my IV, I said, never mind, take it out. Like I couldn't do it. And so to deal with the contractions, once they got really bad, I used Jason as resistance. I would tell Jason to hold my hands and push against me so that I could like push against him, and I would just kind of like stop. I stopped talking and just kind of used him as resistance.
I know I got Pitocin, but I didn't know what it was. I just said yes because I was like,
yeah.
Sure. I don't know what it does, but if you think I need it, give it to me.
Are you saying with Lane or Cody?
With Lane. With Cody, I didn't get any.
You were already pretty far.
Yeah. I got there and I was like, can I go to the bathroom? And they're like, do you need to go pee or poop? And I was like, I need to go poop. And they're like, that's the baby. You're not going to the bathroom.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that when they check your dilation or they do your cervix check, that was more uncomfortable than anything.
Yeah, that like while contracting at the same time felt like death. I would be like, can you please just wait until this one's done? And they're like, they're so close, we can't.
I also didn't realize that, because I know, Kendall, I think you and I both kind of waited a long time before even getting an epidural. I didn't realize that sometimes they don't work. It didn't work on half my body. I had complete.
I've heard that a lot, but I didn't know it was very common. But like I've seen or heard whatever on Facebook of a lot of women saying that theirs didn't work and they got 2 or 3 of them or whatever, and it's still.
They asked me if I wanted the anesthesiologist to come back in, because at first when I finally asked for one, they were like, "Oh, she's in surgery right now. We need to wait." And I was like, "Get her in here! I want this now." And then like I said, it was having trouble working, but it helped alleviate at least a little bit. And so when they asked if I wanted her to come back in and redo it, I said no, because I wanted to be able to at least, I just couldn't not be in control. I wanted to have feeling. And so the fact that it helped just take the edge off a little bit, I was like, no, I'm fine with it. Like, I'd rather feel what's happening and be able to hold my own legs and be able to push and be part of it, because after I had tried the pain medication and felt so awful, I was like, if I'm not in control, like, this is going to be a stressful experience. And I wanted to do everything I could to make it not stressful on me. So I told them no when they asked if I wanted them to come redo the epidural.
I think I was the opposite of you. I kept thinking, you know what, I'm going to be in so much pain, the epidural is going to be a breeze. That was stupid and naive thinking. So I went in, I'm like, praise Jesus. And literally it was so uncomfortable in the middle of contractions, getting this thing poked in my back. I could literally feel it go down my spine. And it was just, not to freak out any future mothers, it was worth it after it kicked in. But it sucked to get. It was not pleasant.
All the questioning and stuff in general in between contractions is hard. Like everything that you have to go to the hospital in general.
They ask so many questions. My nurses kept apologizing to me because they were trying before I got my epidural, because I was waiting for my anesthesiologist or whatever to finish up with somebody else. And I kept just putting my hand up and just like looking down and breathing. And they're like, you can answer in between contractions if you need to. Okay. Like, it was to the point where I couldn't even like tell them like, hang on. I was like, just
give me a minute. Yeah.
Stop or I'm going to be rude to you.
Surprisingly, as painful and uncomfortable as it all is, like as soon as the child is on your chest and you're doing skin to skin, it's like your body just releases like a chemical that just like shuts down your brain. And it's like, I mean, because they were doing stitches inside of me as soon as they put her on my chest, and the doctor was like, "I'm so sorry, can you feel this?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I just don't even care." But like I could feel him stitching, and Jason was like horrified because he was like, they kept asking me, they're like, "Can you feel this?" And I said, "Yes, but it's fine. Just keep going, get it done." Because it's like literally your brain just like releases a chemical, I'm convinced, that makes you not forget what you just went through, but all of a sudden just feel fine.
Just
like you're so in love with
so distracted by this new thing that they just set on your chest. It's like I don't even care what they're doing down there.
Hi, Lane.
I wasn't even like aware that you like birth out the placenta and stuff after, and I like wasn't even like aware of me doing that after. They gave me Cody and I guess Lane too, because I really don't remember doing it with Lane.
Your body naturally pushes.
You just like you just like stop paying attention to what they're doing and make sure everything on your chest is okay.
You know, for Kim, like she wasn't crying, and so when they first put her on me, I was like, "Oh, how great! She's not even crying." And the doctors were like, "No, we need her to cry. Get her to cry." And I was like, "I don't know how to make her cry." No. I guess because that's what helps them like breathe in, and it forces them to engage, you know, and it forces them to breathe and use their nose and mouth. So I didn't realize that that's why they want them to cry as soon as they come out. It's not something to be afraid of or worried about. Delayed bathing I thought was really helpful too, because it gave Jason and I just time alone with the baby for like the first 24 hours before they even come in to clean or do anything.
I think they only waited like 12 hours or something for him, but I agree. It was so nice to just like have that uninterrupted time, you three, and I mean y'all four, Kelly and stuff, and it was just so nice.
Although I will say, fair warning, when you do delayed bathing, your child looks a little janky during that time period because they're all weird with their skin tones. They still got their cone head from popping out. They've got like the white stuff all over them.
That was the last thing we did before leaving the hospital was his bath.
Yeah.
But we only stayed there for one day. Y'all were both there for 2 days? Or
I felt like I was there forever.
Because of, I mean, Kendall and I both gave birth like in the middle of the night, so we kind of had to be there for 2 days because you have to stay at least 24 hours. Another thing I was surprised by is the umbilical cord fell off naturally within the first 7 days, but then for like the next 7 days, she had slight bleeding from her belly button. Anytime she would cry or poop, she would bleed from her belly button.
I didn't know that.
Did you ask your doctor about that?
Yeah. They said it's common for up to a couple weeks, actually, after the umbilical cord falls off. You can have some blood. Now, if it's like oozing or pussy or a lot of blood, then there's reason to be concerned. Yeah. But if it's just a little bit of blood and it's drying up, then it's fine. But yeah, I mean, it was probably almost two weeks of it because it just now started to clear up.
I was shocked at how quickly his came off, but I think it was accidental, self-induced because we were changing him and it got stuck to his shirt.
Ooh. Yeah.
But it didn't bleed, but there was still a little bit of the stump in there, which I think is what probably helped it not to bleed. It didn't pull the whole thing out, just the majority of it.
The hangy part.
We had done like a few like herbal tea baths, like literal tea baths, like me and her together to promote healing. And then we also did golden seal on her stomach to kind of help it dry up. But it came off. I was like feeding, and then I took her off and looked down, and I was like, oh my gosh, her belly button, her thing is missing. And Jason looked at me and goes, don't move. And he ran and grabbed a napkin, and I was like, what's that smell? And then I looked down, and it was on my chest.
Ew, what's that smell? That's
it was
disgusting.
Stinky. And Jason was like, ugh. And so he wiped it off for me.
I appreciated that Zach had 3 weeks off at first to help me all through the night.
That has been
I would just like the baby would wake up and he would give me the baby, and all I'd have to do is sit myself up a little bit in bed. Yeah. And then he would change the diaper and do all that.
That's been Jason's biggest regret is we had family in town. So I was like, oh, you only need to take a week off. Like I'll be fine. And that was true for the first 2 weeks because the first week I had him, the second week I had my mother-in-law. And then after that, I had no one. And he was already back at work because we didn't know. I was just like, oh, by week 3, like I'll be fine. Not fine. Not fine at all. Definitely should have, like he's even said, like next time we have a kid, like I need to take 2 or 3 weeks off and just be home. And I agree with that.
Washington offers like a paternity leave, like a paid paternity
6 to 8 weeks on the West Coast or something like that. You get a percentage of pay of what you would normally make. So you're making less than what you would if you were at work, but at least you're still getting something. I would say it depends on the family, but if you can, I would definitely suggest the spouse taking off as much as possible during the first weeks. Especially for new parents or even second-time parents.
Well, it was a good thing with COVID, with Trevor working at home, not having to drive into downtown. He was able to do night changes. And just like y'all said with Zach and Jason, he was the same thing. But he took a week off. And then the second week, he was working, I guess, but still helping me with it.
Are y'all surprised at how well your body can still function when, like, I just realized this, I slept for 3 hours last night. That's the most I've slept since September 4th.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm sorry. The night of September 3rd was the last time I actually slept. So I slept 3 hours last night, and I was like, that's the most I've slept in a month. And I'm shocked at how I can still function.
I don't know me. I've always been the one that needs a good little chunk of sleep for me to be nice, for one, but also just be able to carry myself. And no, I've been so shocked at how like I can actually function with such little sleep, or at least such little consecutive sleep.
This probably wouldn't be as big of a deal like if we were back home, because we'd have like family help. But Kendall, I was telling you this, I had a friend that was like, oh, do you want me to set up a meal train for you guys for the first couple weeks after you give birth? And I was like, nah, we'll be fine. I told Kendall the other day, biggest regret. Like, especially since we're moving with a newborn between two apartments that are both 30 minutes away from each other, buying new stuff for baby because there was stuff that I didn't realize I needed that I'm now frantically trying to get. And, for a while there, I didn't have a kitchen because our gas was turned off because of COVID and outages here in California. So it's just been a mess. And we've had to eat so much takeout because, there's no time. Like, and especially now that I'm home by myself with the baby, and be held 24/7. Biggest regret is saying no to my friends that offered help.
With Cody teething, it's hard to put him down for a nap. Like right now, he's napped a couple times just because that's all he's doing right now is just nursing and feeling bad and napping. But he doesn't want to nap anywhere but my lap, and so it's hard with Lane to keep him on track and do work and stuff with school. And Zach was like, we can get someone to just come and sit behind Lane and just make sure that Lane stays on track. But I'm like, I don't want to. That's my job. I don't want somebody else to come in and do my job.
Because of having a kid and caring more about their safety, it's like, well, what point do I have people come over and visit or help out? Because I don't know where they've been. I don't know who they're around. I don't know what precautions they're taking. So it just makes it even harder to accept help because I can't control what they're bringing into my child's life. I should probably mention one thing that I do feel is really beneficial is within a week of giving birth, I went and got adjusted at my chiropractor because my hips were so out of line from obviously how much you use your hips and pelvis during labor. And then also, she adjusted one side of me, but it was like when my milk was coming in. And so I literally like squirted. It was so bad. And, I think it like made that side, like still to this day, like my left side, the flow is so much stronger than my right side. And I think it's because of getting adjusted on my left side, like right after giving birth. It was so weird.
I still haven't
need to go to the chiropractor more because of all the odd positions I get stuck in with feeding Cody. I'll like sit there for 45 minutes, like with my neck like this direction or something, with my arm like this. And then I get out of that position. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'll like be sore for the next 24 hours. I'm like, Zach, I don't know what I did. And he's like, well, you were sleeping with your head like this and like this for 45 minutes. That's why you feel like that.
Yeah, my chiropractor has even said, because I've gone twice already, and I'm actually taking the baby next month, and she's going to get a checkup at the chiro. But that was one of the things she said, is she was like, your neck is so tense and your lower back is so tense. Like you have to figure out ways to feed without putting so much stress and pressure. And it's usually, like you said, at night when we're not focusing on our position, we're just kind of like zombies, like, half asleep trying to feed. So you're in all these like weird hunched over positions. And even though it hurts and we know it hurts, we're just kind of like, it's only 20 minutes. Like,
yeah.
But I'm like the
so
hunchback. Relatable. Yeah. Like I'm like the hunchback. And then by the time I'm done feeding, I'm like, oh, and Jason has to like help me lay back down. So it's like, that's another hard part is like, how do you control that or fix that? Because you're doing more damage long term and like need to go to the chiropractor to adjust that.
I like have to sleep in odd positions because I never know when he's gonna like, I might have my back face towards him and be like on the other side of the bed, but in 3 hours he might have crawled behind me and like be right there tucked behind my back, so I can't just like roll over. I have to like stay in weird positions.
Prior to having a kid, if I fell asleep, I was dead to the world, like check my pulse, flailing, like all sorts of stuff. And then after having a kid, it's like I'm like
you sleep like, with one eye
open. Able
to
sleep with one eye open. Yeah.
Nope. I've only co-slept a few times.
I think every day, at least 4 or 5 times, some section of my body falls asleep to the point of like, it feels like ants. Like, when your leg falls asleep and it's like you have ants all over you. Like so many body parts fall asleep because of the weird positions we have to get in when feeding or whenever baby gets comfortable and you like don't want to move.
I used to have to feed Lane in the back with like one hand driving and one hand in the back seat holding his bottle into his mouth when he would get fussy. I literally the other day had to get into the back seat and sit up on my knees while Zach was driving because Cody would not calm down. He was obviously hungry because that's usually the only times he's fussy. And like position myself to put a boob into his mouth while the car was moving. Like, for like 10 minutes until we got home, and it was so uncomfortable. I didn't realize that like supplementing with formula like with a breastfed baby doesn't work for everybody. Cody like legitimately does not like formula. I've tried probably 3 different times, and the first time he just like wouldn't drink it. I heard it go right through him, and he pooped it all out, and it was like, it wasn't poop. It was straight, like he just formulaed from his bottom.
I've never tried.
So I'm not going to give it to him again because it like went right through him.
I didn't even know like how weird breastfed poop is. I've had to Google so many things that I'm like, I never imagined myself Googling this.
What on earth is Batman doing? He's been like that the whole time.
He's stretching. He just woke up.
Those little travel changing mats are a lifesaver because I've had to change so many diapers in the car. Having an extra pair of clothes, whoever said you only need 1 pair of clothes is not accurate. You need multiple pairs of clothes, and you probably need an extra shirt for yourself. And I learned all that the hard way with multiple blowouts, plus having extra blankets. Like, you basically just need to pack a little suitcase every time you leave your front door for that child.
You basically need like 2 diaper bags.
Yeah.
Your normal diaper bag and then your backup diaper bag.
Your overnight bag. Like, just in case.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, seriously though.
Anytime I only have like 4 diapers in the bag, I'm like, no, I need 12 just in case. I'm like, man, why is my diaper bag always so full? I'm still losing so much hair. Lane told me this morning that he thinks I'm going bald.
No.
Shut up.
Well,
we forgot to touch on that overall.
He's 5. He just sees me losing a bunch of hair and is like, wow.
No, from everything I've read and seen, it's totally normal around the 3 or 4 month mark to lose quite a bit of hair because you've gotten so much during pregnancy with the prenatals and everything that you're taking. Your body's trying to regulate your hair growth, kind of like your boobs try to regulate your milk. Like, so it doesn't happen for everyone, but it is.
Well, and I can, when I go through my hair, I can like see all these little short ones and stuff. Anytime I take a shower and I collect like a little rat from the drain, I'm like, how do I not have like patches of bald spots?
Are you still taking your prenatals? Okay.
Yeah.